The tale commenced with several digital notifications alerting the populace to a series of strange occurrences unfolding globally. On the shore, fishermen discovered an enormous abalone, so vast that it required more than 10 individuals to encircle it, leading to suspicions that it was a mutation triggered by nuclear. Additionally, there were reports of an ancient tree in a tourist location that had begun to grow uncontrollably, its roots extending for kilometers, resulting in fissures in the earth, possibly due to an abnormal seismic event. The updates persisted with accounts of gigantic vines descending from the heavens, as if fairy tales had come to life, alongside news of subway tracks being destroyed in various locations, which unfortunately led to some injuries. The crowd at the school barely noticed the headlines, dismissing them as mere sensationalism, akin to the long-forgotten panic over a supposed zombie bite from years prior. A large group of students had assembled at the school's entrance, drawn more by the local gossip than by current events. Their focus abruptly shifted when a striking figure made her way towards them. It was none other than the school's renowned beauty. The onlookers instantly began speculating whether she was finally going to end things with her boyfriend. In their eyes, her involvement with him seemed merely an act of benevolence. Had secured a place at university, but her boyfriend had failed to gain admission to a reputable institution. This created a vast disparity in their future prospects. Approaching Fang Yi, sought to capture his notice, prompting Fang Yi to turn around with a hint of curiosity. With a detached demeanor, she conveyed that she had reflected on their situation and concluded that their relationship lacked realism. In the realm of school-time romance, there inevitably came a moment when one would awaken to the stark realization that they were not destined to be together. According to her understanding, a shared life demanded both bravery and harmony. Given all these considerations, she concluded that it was wisest to part ways. With a sense of contempt, she believed that regardless of his efforts to rekindle their relationship, success was out of reach. Fang Yi stood quietly, and seeing his stillness, onlookers assumed his silence stemmed from overwhelming shock, believing he might have either fainted or become mentally incapacitated. In the eyes of everyone around, she was the school's epitome of allure. They assumed he would be pleading desperately for a second opportunity. Yet, as they watched him, they quickly decided that he was nothing more than a mismatched suitor for someone so wealthy and lovely, a mere toad yearning for a graceful swan. Fang Yi, with a composed expression, consented to the end of their relationship, departing thereafter. And the rest stood in a state of shock. Realizing that the conversation had reached its end, the young boy turned away from her, intent on departing. In a sudden rush of anxiety, she hastily called out to him, trying to stop him. Fang Yi spun around, his eyes sharp and intense as he inquired about her intentions. Her eyes glimmered with fierce anger as she firmly conveyed her indifference towards his thoughts or any schemes he might employ. Her decision was resolute. She had no intention of returning with him, and she wanted him to understand this without any ambiguity. His gaze fixated on her, and he advised her against self-praise, referring to her as the school's beauty. Upon receiving the unexpected news, surprise caused her eyes to widen, and a rosy hue spread across her cheeks. The group stood in disbelief, taken aback by Yi's demeanor. Fang Yi understood that Qingli and the rest were completely oblivious to the events that were about to unfold. He understood that the existing societal structures, such as wealth and learning, were destined to crumble into nothingness. They had no idea that he had come back from a catastrophic future, reborn into this era. Consequently, the Qingli he now faced was, in his eyes, merely a remote figure from a previous existence. He departed from the school grounds. His attention was needed elsewhere, on matters of greater significance. To him, the allure of school beauties and concerns about reputation held no value, as everything in his world was on the verge of a dramatic transformation. A crisis was casting a shadow over all of humanity on Blue Star. The series of events was set in motion on the previous night, when Fang Yi awoke to something unfamiliar. Mysterious fractures revealed glimpses of what was yet to come to him. The system alerted him to the detection of an aura recovery. The complete activation was set to occur in 364 days, 11 hours, and 59 minutes. When the time arrived, the world would experience a transformation like never before. He found himself in a state of puzzlement. In front of him, a group of figures emerged, signaling a significant change, as the system indicated that the rules governing society would undergo transformation. The dawn of an era dominated by cultivators was imminent, where strength would soon define the norms. The young boy found himself filled with a sense of curiosity. He reached out with his hand, curious to know the identity of the person before him. Suddenly, an unusual glow started to materialize before his eyes. A system window manifested, detailing its origins from the universe's vast expanse, boasting advanced algorithms intertwined with cosmic mysteries. Its purpose was to autonomously create cultivation methods from any spiritual materials the host encountered, indicating that there were currently no techniques available. Fangya slowly reached out his hand. His eyes grew wide with astonishment when his hand moved effortlessly through the system window. A formidable creature suddenly appeared. A thunderous roar erupted, leaving Fangya frozen in place. The fear was apparent in their eyes. Within the gaping maw of the beast lay a lifeless body, and the system identified it unmistakably as his own. His journey as an ordinary individual came to a close, along with the destiny shared by billions on Blue Star. He felt a nervous lump in their throat and managed to gulp it down. Fear crept into him as he placed a trembling hand over his chest, his eyes brimming with concern. He found himself lost in thought as memories of his previous life surfaced in his mind. The individual had lived as an ordinary person, carried along by the flow of circumstances. Caught in a battle for survival, he clung to the hope of triumphing over the calamity. Yet, he saw his homeland crumble and the agony of its citizens unfold before him. Ultimately, he found himself unable to evade the clutches of the transformed creatures. The memory of his death lingered, a moment filled with hopelessness and seething anger. Fueled by an intense longing to seek retribution, the character's motivation was clear. The determination within his eyes grew brighter as he considered that maybe this was the reason the system had selected him and transported him back 1 year prior to the aura's resurgence. He reached out with his hand, fully aware that at this instant, the majority of people were oblivious to the impending transformation. Fangya reached out and felt the remains of the system. He resolved to exploit every anomaly created by the aura to his benefit. The system started the process of setting up a fresh assessment. The boy's eyes started to sparkle with excitement. Upon receiving confirmation from the system of a successful linkage, he realized a new path had been revealed to him. With this newfound opportunity, he understood that everything around him could now serve as potential resources. His objective was clear: to gather formidable techniques and abilities, ultimately aiming to become a powerful cultivator and save the world. In the bustling city, the inhabitants learned about a new and unparalleled challenge confronting humanity. The solutions of yesteryears offered no guidance. Instead, they realized that their survival depended on relying on their own resilience and ability to adapt. Everyone in the room expressed surprise, with the sole exception of Fang Yi. Upon switching on his phone, he noticed multiple notifications. It became clear to him that the government had not confirmed or the unusual events, opting instead to advise the public to ready themselves. He understood that this was nation's discreet method of delivering a caution, as reports previously dismissed as mythical nonsense would not have gained such widespread attention otherwise. His gaze clouded with sorrow as memories of the past flooded his mind. He understood that the subtle and quiet tactics of the nation played a significant role in keeping the citizens composed and confident in their homeland. This strategy, though painstaking and gradual, proved to be far more successful than the turmoil and violence that plagued nearby countries. He recalled the system's message, realizing it had informed him that he was permitted to utilize anything, implying he should head to places where anomalies arose. His gaze remained unwaveringly locked onto the phone. The top news story captured everyone's attention as it revealed a significant development. The UV index at university had soared to an unprecedented level, marking a historic milestone for the century. In response to this alarming situation, authorities issued a heat warning, advising incoming students to prioritize their safety by taking necessary precautions and applying sunscreen. The students found themselves perplexed, suspecting that even prestigious universities had turned to flashy advertising tactics. They deemed this notion inaccurate, believing it to be artificially promoted since temperatures that extreme could be lethal. Fanya glanced upwards to find the sky blanketed with clouds. After activating the UV meter, he observed that it registered 0. This left him puzzled, unable to comprehend how the weather conditions could vary so drastically when Qing University was merely a 15-minute drive away. Images showing a blazing sun hanging over the university were shared, and students received notifications that new student registration would proceed as planned. However, they were advised to steer clear of the North Gate because of the elevated UV index, while all other entrances were available for use. Fanya found a smile spreading across her face despite herself. He was well aware that when strange occurrences happened initially, the majority of people dismissed them as mere publicity stunts. However, he alone was privy to the true nature of these events. His eyes sparkled with excitement, for at last, his first real opportunity had presented itself. Fanya donned a fresh set of clothes and made his way to university. As he walked, he noticed that everyone around him was holding umbrellas. The heat was so intense that the leaves had already begun to fall from the trees. The young man made his way to the North Gate of University, known for being the least crowded entrance of them all. He sensed without a doubt that there was something amiss in this location. Glittering ashes started to fall from above, capturing Fanya's unwavering attention, even as his fellow students hurried away to escape the deadly heat. He took a seat and made up his mind to reach out and make contact with it. Upon his finger making contact, an intense glow started to radiate from the object. The system indicated that it had identified a significant surge in the Yang attribute, which subsequently led to the unlocking of its data template. Energy started to flow into his body. The intense agony surged through him, leaving him in excruciating distress. A powerful radiance started to emanate from the bodies of the boys. As a blinding light filled the area, individuals instinctively shielded their eyes to prevent damage to their vision. Confusion reigned, leaving them uncertain about the unfolding events and wondering if their minds were playing tricks on them. The intense energy began to scorch Fanya's clothing, causing him to grit his teeth with determination. He placed his hands on his head, his mind spiraling into chaos as uncertainty gripped him. The fear of whether the system had completed its compilation made him feel as though he was teetering on the brink of collapse. Upon completing the compilation, Fangyi obtained a Yang attribute technique known as the Golden Sun breathing method. On the designated day for welcoming new students, University prepared to register its latest batch of eager learners. The protagonist's former girlfriend made her way to the registration area. A young man approached and offered to carry her suitcase. Before long, additional boys gathered around, each hoping to capture her attention. Despite the offers, she refused each one, asserting that their assistance was unnecessary. A sneer crossed her face as she cast her gaze toward the couple nearby. Suddenly, a dazzling golden light illuminated the room, catching her and the other students off guard. The announcement over the loudspeaker instructed everyone to keep their distance from the North Gate. The girl wore a serious expression as she made up her mind to investigate the unfolding situation. A massive surge of golden energy illuminated the area around the North Gate. From within the swirling smoke emerged a shadowy figure, exuding an overwhelming sense of power. Taking a deep breath, his eyes began to emit a vibrant golden glow. A notification appeared before him, announcing that he had devised a new technique and gained 50 points. The young man gazes at the screen, his mind preoccupied with curiosity about the purpose of the points displayed. He concluded that it wasn't crucial at the moment, though he anticipated it might come in handy in the future. As time moved forward, night descended, bringing with it a peculiar moon that hung in the sky. The young man began honing his skills with the newly learned breathing technique. The following day, the sun shone brightly in the sky, infusing the university with a renewed sense of vitality. As they hurried toward the North Gate, several students observed the sky momentarily darken and cool. A sizable throng assembled at the location, eager to discover the cause of the commotion. The dean of the university was seething with anger. The character wondered aloud about the disregard for the cautionary advice to keep a distance. The group navigated through the throng, which parted to allow them passage toward the center of the commotion. A hooded figure with a stern expression instructs the dean to seal the north gate entirely. At that moment, Fangya received a notification from the system informing him that he had successfully purified a contaminated area. The young man discovers that the government is already aware of these regions and begins to ponder if there might be others who share his abilities. Suddenly, an announcement echoes, warning individuals to stay out of the restricted zone. The young man recognizes the gravity of the situation. The students noticed individuals dressed in uniforms and speculated whether they belonged to the army. From a rooftop, Fangyi observed that the commotion was drawing significant attention. With his eyes glowing a fiery red, he made the decision to depart and leaped off the building. Beneath them stood a figure shrouded in mystery, their identity concealed beneath a hood. The character moves over the surface, which is fractured due to the energy. The figure, cloaked in shadow, examined the scene with keen attention. The individual crouched down, placing a hand on the earth, as they sought to detect any lingering traces of energy. The young woman bent down to examine a fragment from the ground, her curiosity piqued by the recent events. As she scrutinized it, the cloaked figure observed intently and came to the conclusion that the burst of energy had been the result of human intervention. At that moment, the officials started ushering the students away, as a figure cloaked in a hood observed the scene from a distance. Amidst the bustling crowd, the young man's former girlfriend stood in disbelief upon learning that a single individual was responsible for the entire situation. In that instant, she noticed a silhouette leaping into the distance and questioned whether it could have been her former partner. She swiftly dismissed the thought, knowing that with his academic record, he would never qualify for admission to this school. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Fangya's house stood far in the distance. As night descended, the young man lay on his bed, grumbling about the persistent heat in his body, despite having taken a cold shower. Due to the intense heat, he feared that a restful night's sleep would elude him. He also frets over the possibility that today's events might have drawn someone's attention to him. The young man glanced at his phone, noticing a trending news article about a cultivation association. It sparked a memory of how people once dismissed it as merely an internet joke. At that moment, he recalled the mysterious individuals wearing hoods at the university. The individual pondered that the newcomers might belong to the association. Driven by curiosity, he decided to delve into the news story and read the entire article. The text outlined various stages of cultivation, ranging from ghostly abilities to achieving complete transcendence. Amidst the comments, many believed it to be a jest, yet he pondered over the possibility of the announcement being genuine. In his previous existence as an ordinary individual, Fangyi had been completely unaware of these things. Seated on his bed, he pondered the cultivation association and resolved to give his technique another attempt. Closing his eyes with determination, he concentrated deeply as he embarked on his training. At that moment, a bead of sweat formed, driven by his unwavering commitment to reaching a challenging goal. Golden energy swirled around the young man, lifting him gently off the ground. He began to float in his room, enveloped in a radiant golden light. A bright light illuminated him, marking the beginning of his journey. His initial task was to fortify his physique to withstand the formidable power of both heaven and earth. With focused determination, he mastered the energy and skillfully molded it into a radiant light. A celestial axe rested in his hands as his eyes shone with a brilliant light, and a smile spread across his face. Experiencing a surge of energy, he realizes he has advanced to the level, as the system rewards him with an additional 50 points. The young man recalled the key points and glanced at the screen, which announced that a new path had become accessible. The system clarifies that the accumulated points allow the transfer of compiled data into any chosen object. As he pondered the concept of imbuing an object with power, his gaze settled on the mug resting on the table before him. His hand extended toward the mug, emanating a golden glow of power. The system inquired whether he wished to spend a single point to bestow the Yang attribute upon the mug. It dawned on him that this process resembled enchanting an item to imbue it with a unique ability. The young man contemplated that altering a weapon in this manner might transform it into his personal, unique tool for combat. He concluded that possessing an enhanced weapon would be crucial for the challenges that lay ahead. A small sword caught the guy's attention as it rested on his shelf. The character resolved to test the newfound power on the object. He believed that if the experiment proved successful, he would purchase an actual weapon to prepare himself for battling the monsters. In the middle of the night, his attention was abruptly captured by an unusual sound coming from outside the building. A shadowy figure, its massive claws gleaming menacingly, kept a vigilant watch over Fang Yi's apartment from outside. In the shadows, the peculiar beast reveals its razor-like teeth, its eyes aglow with an eerie red light. The creature resembled a colossal, demonic rabbit, poised to launch an assault on the structure. Within the confines of the apartment, the man remained blissfully unaware of the impending danger. Lying in bed, the young man experienced discomfort due to his newly acquired cultivation technique. The character, with his striking red eyes, pondered the origin of the mysterious sound. He concluded that the noise, reminiscent of a rat, didn't originate from within the apartment or the pipes. Instead, he speculated that it might be coming from a neighbor's pet. As he moved through the living room, he reflected that his enhanced sense of hearing made it commonplace for him to catch sounds from the neighbors. The man concentrated, sharpening his hearing to better discern the unusual noise. He quickly senses that something is amiss, prompting him to become vigilant. Fang Yi approached the door and found himself staring directly at the terrifying creature lurking in the dimly lit hallway. In the hallway, a peculiar creature with piercing red eyes emerged and fixed its intense gaze upon him. Prepared to strike, he suddenly felt a jolt of surprise as he identified the mutated creature before him. A recollection from a previous existence surged through his mind, filling him with fear. As night enveloped the city, a drone soared through the sky, revealing that the peril was not a secret. Meanwhile, atop a tall building, a girl expressed her frustration, lamenting that the elusive rabbit responsible for devouring a rare fruit had yet to be captured. The young woman exuded an air of calm confidence as she embarked on the mission, a lollipop perched casually between her lips. She instructed her team to continue providing her with regular updates on the target she was pursuing. Following that moment, the enigmatic girl leaped from the rooftop of the building. The pursuit commenced. As she plummeted rapidly, she maneuvered with effortless grace. Nestled amid the towering structures of the bustling metropolis, the young woman abruptly senses the immense power emanating from the mutated beast, and it dawns on her that she is drawing nearer to it. Her eyes gleamed brightly as she finally spotted the creature, preparing herself for the impending battle. A shadowy figure, known only as the enigmatic hunter, descended forcefully onto the rooftop. With remarkable agility, she descended the side of the building, receiving a directive to pursue the target at all costs. The young woman landed flawlessly, maintaining her relentless pursuit without pausing. As she leaped from one rooftop to the next, she cautioned that the creature had consumed a rare fruit and might undergo an evolution. Meanwhile, a man working late at night glimpsed a swift blur passing by. Standing by his window, he felt a wave of confusion wash over him. Doubt crept in as he questioned whether his eyes were deceiving him, but his boss's sharp voice snapped him back to reality, scolding him for idling. On the 65th floor, the hunter looms like a shadow silhouetted against the light of the moon. Inside the apartment, Fang Yi stood confronting the bizarre creature, which let out a piercing scream directed at him. With the newfound clarity in his golden eyes, he realizes that his body has a transformation, equipping him to face the challenge with fairness. The creature lunged forward, its claws slicing through the air, but the young man swiftly evaded the attack with remarkable agility. Fang Yi noticed a remarkable transformation in his body, allowing him to perceive the incoming attacks as if they were moving in slow motion. Holding the power of the sun in his hand, he puzzled over the unexpected presence of a mutated beast arriving so quickly. In that moment, memories from his past life flooded his mind, compelling him to confront the looming monster. The young man understood that the creature had not yet reached its full evolution, and the darkness of night amplified its strength and fury. Understanding the urgency of the situation, he propelled himself forward with determination, realizing he must halt the impending threat to save everyone in the building from certain doom. With his hand brimming with energy, Fangya successfully seizes the creature. The young man, displaying unexpected might, sank his teeth into the peculiar creature, showing not a hint of trepidation. Gripping the creature firmly, his golden eyes gleamed with a frigid, intense gaze. The young man twirled the creature through the air, his eyes lighting up with the realization that its vulnerability lay in its tail. Seizing the opportunity, he clutches the creature's tail with every ounce of his strength. With a powerful motion, Fangya hurled the monster toward the window, and the glass shattered under the immense force. His fist radiated with a golden hue as he prepared to deliver a mighty punch. The man unleashed a powerful beam of energy, striking the creature squarely as it hovered in the air. The radiant golden beam of light enveloped the monster entirely, yet there was something peculiar about it. The creature extended its claws toward the golden energy, intent on seizing its power. In that moment, Fangya understood that the monster was attempting to siphon his yang energy. The individual retaliated, believing that the sun's power was overwhelming and that the rabbit was merely bringing about its own ruin. A brilliant burst of golden energy enveloped the monster, which struggled to withstand the overwhelming power. In the neighboring building, a couple was startled awake by a loud noise. The man lay there, pondering whether the sound might have been thunder. Afterward, he approached the window to inspect the scene, only to find nothing unusual beyond the glass. The hero found himself sprawled on the floor, encircled by the remnants of his shimmering golden energy. The young man perceived the creature as resembling a ravenous specter eager to devour his strength. Following the battle, the creature's eye tumbled to the ground, releasing an eerie black smoke into the air. He gazed intently at the remnants of the creature he had just vanquished, his expression somber and focused. The young man acted instinctively, bringing his foot down with force onto the eye, obliterating the remaining part of the creature. The creature of the night was driven by a desperate need for the power that was the opposite of its own, the yang-type energy that he possessed. The young man believed that if he had been ordinary, the creature would have devoured everyone in the building without hesitation. Understanding the challenges that lie ahead, he realizes the necessity of acquiring new techniques to confront them. Amidst the glow of the moon, a mysterious girl gracefully leapt through the air. The young woman, exuding the aura of a skilled hunter, dashed with incredible speed along the side of the building. Upon arriving at the scene, she witnessed the mysterious hunter's eyes widening in shock. In the stillness of the night, she found herself pondering whether another had vanquished her target before her arrival. Kneeling on the ground, she observes the obliterated target and resolves to retrieve the night attribute once more. Upon reaching out to the remnants of the creature, she was startled to discover a lingering golden energy. The young woman suddenly experienced an intense warmth and a searing energy that compelled her to immediately recoil. The young woman recalled the energy she had felt at the university gate and realized that the current situation was far from coincidental. Following the revelation, the girl activated her communicator, her expression marked by a blend of seriousness and resolve. She reported to her base that the target had been eliminated by a formidable new forerunner, possessing a unique ability. The communicator crackled to life, and a voice inquired whether the individual responsible for cleaning the gate was also the one who had killed the rabbit. The man acknowledged the absence of any details about this individual and emphasized the necessity for the association to enlist him. The girl with silver hair nodded in agreement with the plan. With caution, she placed the tiny flicker of energy. The young woman carefully concealed the object within a hidden pocket sewn into her clothing. Her superior instructed her to abandon all other tasks and concentrate solely on locating the mysterious new forerunner. The hunter, shrouded in mystery, with a serene demeanor, she carefully removed the wrapper from the lollipop she held in her hand. The young woman placed the candy into her mouth, feeling its sweetness as she confidently acknowledged her complete understanding of the new order. Before commencing her mission, the girl decides that she needs to relax with some milk tea. A voice crackled through the communicator, expressing curiosity about the identity of the enigmatic figure possessing such immense power. The young woman acknowledged the president's correctness and realized the necessity of meeting this formidable master. As the sun peeks over the horizon, Yi begins his day. He stretches his limbs, prepared for a morning of training. Awakening early was beneficial for his abilities, so he got ready for another practice session. The fighter employed his unique breathing technique, drawing in the golden energy of the morning. As this energy surged through him, the power within him manifested as a golden glow in his eyes. Upon entering the realm of the ghost axe, he sensed the emergence of the technique's formidable power. A sudden surge of energy unexpectedly catches him off guard. He became aware of his increasing strength as energy surged through his entire being. As he concentrated, he aimed to harness its power. Clenching his fist tightly, he could sense the energy pulsating within his grasp. Upon summoning his key axe, he noticed that the weapon felt significantly lighter than before. With a determined grip, he held the weapon's handle tightly. The warrior, eager to test his newfound strength, hoisted the gleaming golden axe high above his head. As he himself for a formidable strike, he advanced into the two-star ghost axe realm, unleashing his full strength. Golden flames danced within his eyes, a vivid display of his newfound power. After the transformation, Fang Yi experienced a noticeable increase in strength and resilience throughout his body. The rapid increase in his strength was due to his ability to harness the additional energy from his most recent power-up. He resolved to approach his journey with caution, advancing gradually and methodically, ensuring each step was deliberate and well-considered. His increasing strength began to draw a significant amount of attention, necessitating a more secluded location for him. Inside the association's office, a man sensed an unusual presence in the atmosphere. He noticed the shift in the sun's energy and pondered whether the new guy might be responsible once more. Searches for a peaceful area by the riverbank where he can focus on developing his plans. A system screen materialized in front of him, and he decided to enhance his weapon with a special attribute. He recalled attempting the same with a different object, but it had been unable to withstand the energy. For this attempt, the new blade harmonized with his energy, establishing a powerful link, a system notification that the item encoding had succeeded. Eager to explore the capabilities of his newly acquired weapon, he prepared himself to immediately test its remarkable strength. The outcome of the test astonishes him as the sword unleashes an immense surge of power. A massive golden beam of light erupts from the blade, piercing the sky. The warrior descended with his sword ablaze, the sensation of power coursing through his being. With a powerful swing, he came close to igniting a fire, realizing the peril that his immense strength posed. The large plume of smoke from the attack signaled his presence, making it clear that he had been spotted and prompting him to realize the urgency of his departure. A girl sprinted rapidly in the direction of the smoke that lingered in his wake. She expressed her frustration, noting that she had only stepped away briefly and in doing so had missed all the action. Without warning, the young woman comes to a halt. Observing the river, she realizes it's actually boiling. Meanwhile, the agent hovers over the ravaged landscape, contemplating the actions of the newcomer that led to such destruction. She could already envision receiving a scolding, as everything seemed to have unraveled since his arrival. At that moment, her attention was drawn to a distant glimmer of gold. The young woman found herself intrigued as she observed the hunter. To her astonishment, she sensed something that belief. It was impossible, yet his power level had surged from 1 star to 2 stars. Moreover, he had crafted a weapon imbued with spiritual energy. The association possessed just 2 of those elusive weapons, with the method of their creation shrouded in mystery. The girl began to feel a growing sense of suspicion. He pondered over how he managed to acquire such power on his own. She doubted her own thoughts, and concluded that she should begin tidying up the chaos he had created. In a distant place, Yi pondered the fact that his weapon had acquired the Yang attribute, while he himself remained without it. He desired additional features, knowing the system's ability to encode limitless options. Thus, he intended to enhance the blade by incorporating more attributes. Without warning, his phone vibrated. A message appeared from an unfamiliar sender. The concept of privacy slipped entirely from his mind, leading to the unexpected scenario of a stranger extending an invitation for him to join a pioneer's group. He was taken aback upon discovering that to qualify as an official member, one needed to have reached at least the Ghost Axe realm level. The stranger mentioned a newly formed pollution zone and extended an invitation for him to join a group hunt. The young man inquires about the whereabouts. The mysterious individual transmitted a file containing information about the lava dragon that resided in the Shadow River. The area was filled with lava, possessing the same yang attribute that he held. He made the decision to accept the invitation. In the distant district, a gathering patiently anticipated the arrival of a friend of the elderly Li. A member of the group remarked that the girl's map had been so detailed and accurate that he found his way there with ease. The girl expressed her gratitude to everyone for their presence and emphasized the importance of collaboration among them. The woman, hailing from the Cultivation Association, felt a sense of disappointment as she observed that the pioneers in this place lacked significant strength. Many remained unaware that the Cultivation Association operated as a government organization. Gaining entry into this group proved challenging, necessitating her family to seek assistance from others, which fueled her aversion to failure. At that very moment, something happened. As the new arrival made his way towards the group, one of the explorers noticed him and recognized him as Fang. With a commanding presence, Fang stepped forward, wielding his new sword and confidently presenting himself to the assembled group. The agent felt a jolt of surprise at the display of power, yet noticed that his aura emanated warmth instead of intimidation. With the entire team assembled, the leader signaled them to move toward the entrance of the cave. Fang Yi made the decision to proceed initially, instructing the agent to manage the lighting. The group moved cautiously through the cave, with one member advising Fang to be wary of the unstable rocks underfoot. They found it odd that the temperature inside wasn't as high as they had anticipated. Fang Yi contemplated the speed at which the team had embraced him, and he sensed that their camaraderie was genuine, especially during these challenging times. Fang Yi continued to press onward. The earth beneath his feet began to shift in hue, signaling the proximity of peril. Without warning, they arrived at a vast clearing, their eyes widening in astonishment at the sight of a river of molten lava flowing just before them. With no pause in his stride, Fang charged directly into the peril, prompting the agent to shout warnings against his rashness. The onlookers were astonished, as the warrior boldly thrust his sword straight into the molten lava, prompting the explorers to react with panic and cries for assistance. A powerful explosion erupted, sending the team sprawling backward, while Fang Yi found himself in an advantageous position amidst the chaos. The system identified a global issue and began to process the data for analysis. Fang Yi thrust his sword into the molten lava, prompting his system to examine the strange occurrence. The analysis uncovered a newfound ability, known as the inner flame, characterized by its incredibly high internal temperature and explosive nature. The technique of the Scarlet Flame Sword. The weapon's might was revealed as the blade emerged, enveloping itself in a fierce display of flames and crackling lightning. Fang Yi, filled with determination, tightened his hold on the sword. The blade and his eyes both emitted a fiery glow, showcasing the perfect technique he wielded with his Tang sword. Amidst the chaos below, the other explorers, having been hurled backward by an earlier blast, gazed in awe as Fang Yi remained untouched within a swirling inferno. Upon discovering that his weapon was drawing strength from the lava's energy, Fang Yi decided to utilize his script points to forever instill the Scarlet Flame attribute into his sword. Now, the blade seethed with a fiery vigor. As the flame diminished, his teammates came to the conclusion that he had experienced a minor mishap in his cultivation practice, but had managed to recuperate. The group felt a surge of euphoria as they realized the spiritual energy within the cave had finally stabilized. One individual rejoiced, expressing that they could now absorb the energy with ease. Meanwhile, another, poised at the threshold of his cultivation journey, called out's name with excitement. The agent, known as, urged the group to continue their training as she stood guard, and in response, The team expressed their gratitude for the chance she provided. The tranquility was suddenly shattered as noticed shapes moving toward the entrance, alerting everyone that more pioneers were on their way. 3 burly men strode into the scene, their leader distinguished by an eye patch and eyes that glowed with an ominous red light. With an air of arrogance, he proclaimed that the land, abundant in resources, now belonged to them. Felt a surge of concern upon realizing that all 3 of the newcomers had reached the 1-star Ghost Axe realm, a level of power that her team was ill-equipped to confront. In the face of potential peril, remained composed and attempted to negotiate with the group. She courteously pointed out that her group had arrived before them and graciously extended an invitation for them to join. Her attempts at diplomacy were greeted with scorn. The leader, distinguished by an eye patch, ridiculed her for her lack of stature and commanded them to leave immediately, threatening repercussions if they didn't comply. His face grew stern as she contemplated the ruthless truth of this new world's survival dynamics. Despite this grim understanding, her role in the Nations Association compelled her to stand against such unfairness. As tensions rose and the confrontation neared a breaking point, Fangyi intervened by positioning himself between and the aggressive leader. As his sword blazed with energy, he inquired with a chilling detachment whether the towering man had no other pursuits than harassing a young woman. The leader, sporting an eye patch, found himself utterly taken aback and unable to respond. Fangyi acted swiftly and released a solitary attack. A powerful swing that causes a significant impact. A fiery explosion erupted, propelling the 3 aggressors through the air. The force of the attack shocked Fangyi's teammates, abruptly pulling them out of their meditation. Recalling the devastation wrought by certain individuals, he found the memories of those calamities flooding his mind. The narrative illustrated a world where only the strongest could endure. Understanding that only sheer, overwhelming force would be effective against individuals of this nature, the realization dawned upon them. In order to emphasize his argument, Fangyi took the wheel and drove. The young warrior thrust his sword into the earth before the opposing leader, his presence enveloped in a formidable golden glow. With a chilling authority, he commanded them to leave immediately. The leader, overwhelmed by fear at the second demonstration of power, branded Fangyi as a monster. Fangyi observed as the men fled, their leader shouting at them to escape. The group of teammates hurried towards him, their excitement palpable as they marveled at the astonishing display of his strength. Fangyi dismissed the matter with a smile, implying it was time for them to depart. As they departed, pondered over the incredible strength that Fangyi had demonstrated. He came to the realization that he had restrained himself, fully believing he was among the leading trailblazers. She understood the urgency of informing her organization about this significant discovery without delay. The setting transitions to the office of the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. There, a woman engaged in a phone conversation with expressed her astonishment at the emergence of yet another pioneer with high attributes. The office worker became visibly uneasy as she suddenly realized that she had spoken more than she intended, particularly with a daunting figure looming behind her. After confirming the report, she ended the call with a touch of awkwardness. The young woman, brimming with cheer, inquired of her gray-haired superior whether they had the fortune of encountering 2 high-attribute pioneers consecutively. Her superior, however, responded with a serious demeanor, pointing out that fortune wasn't a factor, and went on to explain about each high-attribute individual. He was fated to emerge as a new hub of authority, a duty that weighed heavily on his shoulders and caused him significant stress. Beneath a bright and clear sky, Fangyi made his way back to the city. In an attempt to blend in, he donned the guise of a. Yet, his commanding aura and the unmistakable authenticity of his sword only served to attract even more attention. As he made his way forward, his steps came to a sudden halt upon noticing something on his phone. Reports of the cave incident had already spread widely across the internet. He mentally reprimanded himself for his lack of caution, fully aware that the sudden flare-up of his inner fire had drawn too much attention. He pushed aside any thoughts of betrayal from his teammates and concentrated on the more pressing issue at hand. The overwhelming yang energy he had absorbed surged within him, driving him toward a significant breakthrough. Realizing the urgency of the situation, he knew he needed to find a secluded area without delay and made his way toward the back mountain. 5 minutes passed on the very same mountain. A young woman with striking silver hair, known as Ching, a specialist in garden restoration, sensed an unexpected and intense presence. She witnessed a sudden, brilliant flash, reminiscent of a tiny sun, and realized it signified a cultivator achieving a breakthrough to the formidable 3-star Ghost Axe realm. The magnitude of the energy left her in awe. She had never envisioned that a breakthrough of such magnitude could be so overwhelming. The character was propelled forward by a strong sense of obligation and a moment of realization. Upon hearing the commotion, she swiftly dashed in its direction. The character made a determined promise to apprehend the elusive figure on this occasion. Perched atop the mountain, Fangya concentrated intently on achieving his breakthrough. He absorbed vast quantities of golden energy, which swirled around him and eventually coalesced into a luminous, sun-like sphere. Suspended in midair, he focused intently, allowing the energy behind him to take on an intricate, star-shaped formation. Golden light danced across his skin, and his eyes shone with intense power as he worked to harness the untamed energy. Eventually, the energies converged to form a colossal divine axe, composed entirely of radiant golden and light blue energy, pulsating with immense power. During this time, made her entrance, halting abruptly as her eyes fell upon the astonishing scene before her. She stared in utter amazement at the enigmatic figure poised to wield the divine axe he had just forged. His mastery over the weapon was astounding. She pondered the possibility that this individual had honed his abilities in secret for hundreds of years, given his flawless manipulation of spiritual energy. The vision conjured memories that she had long forgotten. The memory was one that caused great discomfort. She recalled her own struggle to advance to the Ghost Axe 2-star level. The overwhelming force of her divine axe had been unbearable, forcing her to retreat and leaving her coughing up blood. This ordeal confined her to bed rest for an entire week. Despite her inherent strength, her attempt had ended in a dismal failure. She found it incomprehensible how this creature could withstand a breakthrough that far surpassed the intensity of her own. Approaching the scene, her amazement grew exponentially. The immense spiritual energy, the precision in each swing of the axe, and the way every ounce of force appeared refined to perfection were all unparalleled in her experience. In her mind, this individual transcended mere extraordinariness. He resembled a deity descended from the heavens. The young woman observed his composed and methodical approach to tasks. Unlike most pioneers who would hastily push forward at the slightest hint of a breakthrough, this individual proceeded with a profound sense of wisdom and a resolute mindset, reminiscent of a master from times long past. The giant, fiery divine axe started to shift, abruptly halting her train of thought. She gazed in awe as it swung with determination, making its way toward the east. As Fangya stood at the height of his power, his eyes blazed with a brilliant golden hue, while fissures of unrefined energy etched their way across his face. Within the heart of a dazzling tempest of golden energy, he hovered, having mastered the overwhelming surge of power he had accumulated to undergo his transformation. Suddenly, a system window materialized before him, providing the official acknowledgement of his achievement. He had advanced to the Ghost Axe realm, 2-star. The freshly forged divine axe crashed forcefully into the ground. The mountain was engulfed in a massive shockwave, as all of its energy was unleashed at once. Found herself swept up in the intense blast and struggled to maintain her footing against the surging wave of golden energy. The remaining energy carved a wide trail through the forest, gradually dissipating. When she glanced upward, however, the enigmatic figure was nowhere to be seen. Breathing heavily from both exertion and her growing frustration, found it hard to believe that she had missed him once more, particularly since she had arrived in just half a minute. A troubling idea crossed her mind. It seemed he was aware of her attempts to follow him. She was concerned that if he continued to remain so elusive, her efforts to recruit him might ultimately fail. When she was on the brink of surrendering, she halted abruptly. An unexpected idea sparked in her mind. Diverting her gaze from the trail of chaos, she turned towards an ancient, massive tree that shimmered with a gentle, lingering golden glow. Filled with newfound confidence, she projected her voice into the seemingly deserted forest, addressing him respectfully as senior and inquiring if he remained nearby. Emerging from the forest's shadows, Fangya stepped forward, his hooded figure exuding a calm and assured demeanor. His eyes, glowing with a striking red hue, fixed intently on. Instantly, he recognized her as the one who had been investigating him over the recent days. Upon realizing she had been discovered, maintained her composure and confidently presented herself. She identified herself as the leader of the Firefly Squad, which was affiliated with the Spiritual Practitioners Association of Nation. As one of the country's early trailblazers, she extended a heartfelt invitation to him to become part of their group on behalf of the association. She confessed to having observed him closely for the past 2 days, expressing her wish that her actions hadn't left a negative impression. While she explained, Fangya remained silent, his expression concealed beneath the shadow of his hood. She mentioned that although the public remained unaware, all the official documents for the association had been prepared. Internally, though, she felt a surge of nerves, meticulously selecting her words and fretting over whether she might be inconveniencing him or inciting the influential man's ire. She was conscious of the need to maintain a gentle and deferential tone. Her meticulously crafted address was abruptly interrupted. Fangya's straightforward inquiry left him pondering the reason for his potential involvement. The unexpected nature of the question caught her off guard, leaving her momentarily at a loss for words as panic set in. Realizing swiftly that meaningless pleasantries would be ineffective against someone so intelligent, she grappled with finding the right response. The truth was her sole option. Gathering her thoughts, she conveyed the purpose of the association. She revealed to him that the nation aimed to assemble and unify all the early pioneers, directing them on a structured course while providing additional protection. She understood that the current state of growth was chaotic, and that an association might seem restrictive to someone with his free spirit. However, she urged him to consider the broader perspective. A significant resurgence of spiritual energy was on the horizon, and they would all need to unite to confront the mysterious adversaries of the future. Upon hearing her fervent speech, Fangya reclined nonchalantly against the trunk of a nearby tree, appearing both weary and indifferent. He expressed to her in a straightforward manner that he had no intention of joining. He elaborated that, at this moment, he remained unable to completely place his trust in either her or the organization she stood for. Qing found herself utterly taken aback, unable to form words, as his straightforward rejection left her eyes wide with disbelief. Faced with his refusal, felt a wave of desperation wash over her. In her urgency, she swiftly retrieved her identification card, hoping it would change the situation. Held up her jacket, presenting it for him to inspect. She reintroduced herself, emphasizing her name and sharing that before the resurgence of spiritual energy, she was a famous athlete. Desperately, she implored him to have faith in her, hoping that her past public persona would provide him with a reason to trust her. He halted for a moment, pondering over what she had said. With a pensive touch to his chin, he acknowledged that her words had stirred a faint recollection within him. His thoughts drifted to a framed photograph showcasing her triumph as the runner-up in the SIA Nation's long-distance championship. It dawned on him that her innate talent in athletics was the key to her remarkable speed and pioneering prowess. A sudden hardness settled over his features as an unsettling memory resurfaced. Memories from his former existence surfaced, painting a picture of a devastated metropolis. In his initial timeline, he understood that the efforts of the nation, along with the association, had ultimately met with failure, resulting in humanity's downfall. Having now returned equipped with his system, he realized he needed to contribute to the resolution of this crisis, though aligning with the association at this moment was not the appropriate choice. Adopting a more contemplative expression, he turned his gaze back toward Qing, who appeared filled with hope. He assured her that he indeed recalled who she was. He mentioned that he would consider her proposal, but before she had a chance to respond. He leaped into the air, swiftly moving away from that location. In an instant he had already. Suddenly he reappeared just behind, who was taken by surprise. He laid down a strict requirement for her. She had to promise to keep his whereabouts hidden from everyone else at the moment. As he considered her courteous demeanor, he speculated that the association was cautious about offending influential trailblazers who were not aligned with them. He perceived this as a vulnerability he could exploit, proposed an agreement. The woman detailed how the association had sensed the energy surge from his breakthrough and mentioned her obligation to submit a report. She proposed creating a report that blended truth with deception to safeguard his identity, while also satisfying her superiors. After pondering for a moment, Yi consented to her strategy. Jing attempted to reach out to Fang Yi, who had just nodded in agreement with her proposal. In an instant, he vanished without a trace. Chasing him down the mountain slope proved futile, and with exhaustion setting in, she trudged through the forest path on her own. Frustration bubbled within her as she grumbled about her repeated failures to catch up to him and the realization that he was deliberately evading her. A weary sigh escaped her lips as she lamented the exhausting task of erasing the potent energy traces he left behind after each encounter. Her musings were abruptly interrupted by a voice crackling through her earpiece, reminding her to set aside her concerns about the elusive pioneer and to focus on the task at hand. A serious voice informed her that the peculiar creatures had made another appearance. Stood motionless, her eyes widening in disbelief as she questioned the reality of their return. A frightening memory overwhelmed her thoughts, depicting her encircled by a horde of fearsome, wolf-like beings with blood-stained jaws and eyes that glowed a menacing red. She realized she would never erase the image of those bizarre, bloodthirsty creatures from her mind. The narrative went on to clarify their nature. They were merciless and malevolent monsters, spawned from the polluted areas created by the resurgence of spiritual energy. The creatures derived their strength from these zones, transforming into monstrous beings that devoured people. Some had the ability to disguise themselves as natural disasters, causing death and destruction as they divided the land and created new areas of contamination. If left unchecked, their inherently destructive tendencies would allow them to continue consuming the human world until it was completely destroyed. A sudden and powerful storm swept across the city. The night sky was illuminated not by the glow of streetlights, but by the relentless and fierce bursts of lightning. Rain relentlessly cascaded from the sky as red alerts illuminated the screens of people's phones, cautioning them about the intense thunderstorm and advising them to remain indoors. A subsequent notification informed everyone that the mountain area had been shut down due to potential flooding dangers. People gazed out of their windows, remarking that it had been years since they had witnessed a storm of such intensity. Some even jested, suggesting that perhaps a mighty entity was undergoing a trial by lightning in the vicinity. Concealed within a drenched alleyway, Fang Yi observed the storm with a somber expression, his crimson eye emitting an eerie glow. The atmosphere was charged with an immense amount of lightning energy, and he sensed its untamed force. It became clear to him that this was not just an ordinary storm, but one more strange occurrence. The energy concentrated intensely at one spot as his gaze swept over the urban skyline, finally settling on a mountain peak far in the distance. Caught in a relentless barrage of lightning strikes, he realized he had stumbled into the heart of the tempest. Without any delay, Fang Yi dashed into the pouring rain, swiftly jumping from one rooftop to another as he hurried in the direction of the mountain. Upon arriving at the foot of mountain, Fang Yi's system promptly the presence of a pollution zone. He gazed up at the peak, but rather than its typical beauty, his eyes were met with a bleak sight where skeletal remains lay strewn among gnarled trees. The danger intensified with an additional system alert, indicating that the level of pollution remained uncertain. Despite any uncertainties, Fang Yi advanced with unwavering determination. He ventured into the dark, stormy woods, his expression set with determination as he approached the heart of the tempest. A colossal bolt of blue lightning suddenly struck the mountain's peak, illuminating the entire landscape. At that moment, he realized he had located his target. Within the command center of the Spiritual Practitioners Association, officials gathered for a meeting filled with tension. A massive screen displayed a swirling vortex of blue energy hovering above a mountain peak. An official conveyed that the peril on Mount was escalating rapidly, necessitating its closure and designation as a new contamination area. The leader of the association, with a somber expression, stated that the circumstances were so dire he was compelled to withdraw from a different crucial task. He requested that she provide a report on the current situation. Informed the officials that scaling the mountain was not feasible at the moment due to the volatile thunder energy that was on the verge of erupting. Consequently, the area received an official designation as an A-level contamination zone. She carried on with even more troubling news. The rapid increase in energy levels indicated that the mountain would soon escalate to an S-level threat. This would trigger the initiation of their most critical emergency plan. However, she identified a significant issue. According to the gathered data, none of the explorers available to them could approach the area without danger, and she had to concede that even her skills wouldn't suffice. A ripple of disbelief swept across the room as the calculations revealed that undertaking the mission would spell certain doom, even for the most advanced explorers. Confronted with an insurmountable predicament, a man donned in a security uniform commanded that the base of Mount be entirely closed off. He ensured that patrols were dispatched around the clock to prevent any attempts at ascending the mountain. The leader of the association nodded with conviction. He insisted that they needed to neutralize the danger by closing off the mountain, ensuring that no one approached it until the energy levels diminished. The association had deemed Mount to be fraught with peril. Fang Yi found himself immersed in the heart of the area. Surrounding him, massive blue lightning bolts struck the ground with force. Amidst the fury of the storm, Fang Yi remained steadfast, enveloped in a golden glow that emanated from his mastery of a powerful breathing technique. He understood that merely enduring the storm wouldn't suffice. To harness the form of thunder energy, he needed to ascend to the heart of the storm at the mountain's summit. Dark memories from his past drove his decision. He understood that the creatures they confronted now were merely the start, and even more frightening monsters lay ahead. He came to the understanding that his existing abilities centered around fire were insufficient for the obstacles that lay ahead. He realized that he needed to build his own strength and not depend solely on his weapon. Amidst the flashes of lightning, Fang Yi recognized a unique chance to harness the thunder's energy to enhance his physical strength. Fang Yi realized that without grasping this opportunity to increase his strength, he would inevitably succumb to the impending calamities. With eyes alight in a brilliant gold hue, he unsheathed his sword, which blazed with fiery intensity. With a rebellious cry, he thrust the object straight into a colossal streak of blue lightning. A surge of wild energy coursed through his body. The intense agony coursed through him, yet his expression held firm with unwavering resolve. His entire body trembled uncontrollably. Electricity surged through his body, and he understood that this thunderous energy felt like a celestial retribution, deliberately opposing him. The storm raged with fury at his intrusion into its domain, seemingly insisting that he relinquish his presence. As he gazed at the turbulent sky above, he pondered the challenge of commanding such untamed energy. Suddenly, inspiration struck. He took a deep breath to steady his nerves and recalled the principle of his system. In order to gain a power, he needed to physically connect with the energy source. A radiant golden light burst forth from him, illuminating the surroundings as he activated his golden sun breathing technique, resolute in his effort to battle through the storm. Fang Yi let out a thunderous roar as he advanced, wielding his flaming sword to carve a path forward. In the midst of the tempest of blue lightning, his golden energy collided fiercely with the untamed storm, resulting in a massive, chaotic explosion. The strain caused blood to seep from his mouth, yet his eyes blazed with unwavering resolve. He recognized that this was a risky endeavor requiring him to exert himself to the utmost, confronting the threat of death as his only chance to survive. At last, following a difficult battle, upon reaching the summit, he drove his sword into the earth, shattering the stone beneath him as he stood at the heart of the tempest. In this place, the might was even more daunting, a fierce torrent of electrical energy that rendered breathing a struggle. The storm seemed to fixate entirely on him, and he suddenly understood that its intent had shifted. It was no longer content with merely driving him back. It now sought to end his life. The storm seemed to gather all its strength, unleashing a colossal bolt of white-hot lightning aimed directly at him, an assault intended to utterly obliterate him. Facing the storm's ultimate assault, Fang Yi's system sprang into action, identifying a formidable thunder attribute and commencing its analysis. From the heights of a skyscraper in the bustling city, onlookers gazed in awe at the scene unfolding before them. Among them, a man capturing the moment with his camera marveled at the sheer magnitude of the lightning, unlike anything he had ever witnessed. Meanwhile, another spectator speculated whether a deity was undergoing some celestial challenge, convinced for a fleeting moment that he discerned a human figure amidst the clouds. At the top of the mountain, the battle concluded in a dazzling burst of energy. Fang Yi emerged victorious, as a system notification his triumph by declaring that he had acquired the refined power of divine thunder. After mastering his newfound abilities, he gained the power to call upon celestial lightning, transforming his physique to resemble that of a deity. As a result of his achievements, he was granted 5 writing points. Suspended in midair, Fang Yi was encircled by crackling blue lightning and a radiant golden glow. He had come to grasp the extent of his newfound strength. The thunder attribute emerged as a superior force, excelling in both offensive and defensive capabilities. In contrast to his solar power, which was primarily defensive, the thunder attribute had the ability to fortify his body and transform it into a powerful source of energy. He came to the conclusion that the thunder had transformed into both his weapon and his defense. He also understood that its power extended beyond mere destruction. The event symbolized both purification and rebirth. He sensed the invigorating energy coursing through him, fortifying his bones and muscles without causing any discomfort. The system presented him with an opportunity for an upgrade designed to punish evil, which promised to double his critical damage. It inquired whether he wished to utilize his writing points to acquire this enhancement. Upon landing gently, Fang Yi contemplated his next move. The initial idea that crossed his mind was to channel this newfound thunder energy into his Tang sword. He pondered over this option with careful consideration. Despite the potential to enhance the blade's strength, he harbored concerns about compromising the sun attribute's purity already present within it. He was well aware that infusing an object with too many distinct powers could lead to its deterioration or even destruction. Then, without warning, an ingenious thought struck him. Upon examining his hand, he resolved to try something new. His plan was to embed the thunder attribute directly into his right hand. Instantly, the system reacted, inquiring whether he wished to infuse the thunder attribute into the selected item. With a confident smirk gracing his face, he issued the command. In an instant, the wild blue lightning that crackled through the air converged into his right hand, as he absorbed the storm's power for his own use. The following day, atop the storm-battered summit of Mount, the immediate threat had dissipated. On the precipice, and a military officer known as Major Hanli observed the many bodies wrapped in body bags. Informed him that the energy within the contamination area had mysteriously decreased from its highest threat level to a much safer one in a mere 3 hours, although traces of electricity lingered in the atmosphere. Major Hanli quickly grasped the situation as he listened. It became clear to him that someone had been present. That someone was a seeker, an individual dedicated to uncovering such perilous occurrences. Felt a jolt of surprise, her mind racing with thoughts about whether another seeker might be part of this, and if there was any possibility they had made it through. Kneeling down, she searched for any signs, but the relentless downpour had likely erased all traces, leaving nothing for her to find. After analyzing the situation, she determined that the seeker likely departed the mountain without incident by approximately 8 p.m. the previous evening. Major Hanli concurred with her assessment of the timeline. The unusual occurrence had started around 6 p.m., and the military had secured the mountain by 7 p.m., suggesting that the seeker had ascended the mountain before the closure. He observed that their equipment had forecasted the threat to escalate to a grade S level. Yet, unexpectedly, the energy diminished after 8 p.m. Positioned at the spot where the lightning had struck with the greatest intensity, the Major shared his own hypothesis. He was convinced that the seeker not only managed to endure the lightning strike, but also likely possessed some sort of thunder-related ability, transforming what could have been a catastrophe into a remarkable chance. He realized that this individual was directly responsible for the abrupt shift in circumstances. The Major then expressed his greatest concern, noting that individuals like this posed the most significant threat due to their uncertain loyalties. Nodded in agreement, expressing the importance of finding this powerful individual swiftly, due to the immense disaster they could cause if they posed a threat. Miles away, Yi lounged on his couch, completely oblivious to the military operation that was now centered on him. Suddenly, he erupted with a loud sneeze. Back on the mountain, Major Hanley reached a pivotal decision. With resolute authority, he instructed his troops to locate the individual without delay, regardless of the expense. Upon issuing his directive, he designated the enigmatic figure with a temporary, the tyrant. The inquiry concerning Mountain was initiated immediately. The military anticipated that the Spiritual Practitioners Association would swiftly enlist the enigmatic individual known as Tyrant. Meanwhile, they planned to withhold any details about the incident and commence their own probe. Amidst the drizzle on the mountain summit, the leader of the association informed Major Hanley that a top-tier pioneer was already attempting to establish communication. Turning his attention to, he instructed her to present her findings to the Major. Taken by surprise by the command, inhaled sharply in alarm. Compelled to act quickly, she launched into her partially truthful account, linking the recent event to the trailblazer who had just cleaned up the contaminated area at a nearby college. Internally, she was gripped by fear, anxious that she might slip up and expose her arrangement with Fang Yi. She recounted her efforts to reach him, acknowledging the difficulty in tracking him down. She brought up the discovery of the mutated rabbit's remains, which he had defeated, and accurately deduced his Yang Flame ability from the clues. Concluding her narrative, she vowed to make every effort to get close to him and uncover the method he used to bypass the university's gate. Inwardly, she pleaded for assistance, aware that blending truth with deception was the only way to make her account believable. Major Hanley focused intently, contemplating the significance of a pioneer possessing the Yang Flame attribute. He appeared pleased with the report she had provided and expressed his gratitude for her efforts, praising her as a talented young trailblazer. In response, executed a crisp salute and affirmed that she was merely fulfilling her responsibilities. After the meeting concluded, Major Hanley brought up the plan to disseminate false reports about natural disasters to obscure the true event from the public eye. He expressed his disapproval of sharing details about spiritual energy on the internet, fearing it might fall into the wrong hands. Meanwhile, as the officials conversed, let out a quiet sigh, feeling a sense of relief that the intense interrogation had come to an end. At his residence, Fang Yi utilized his golden sun. Using a technique, he effortlessly dried his white hoodie, causing it to emit a soft, warm glow. After ensuring it was spotless and devoid of any moisture, they lifted it up with satisfaction. Upon donning the item, he observed the transformations occurring within his physique. Even with the addition of the mighty thunder attribute, he noticed a distinct disparity remained. Gazing at his right hand, he noticed it crackling with vibrant blue electricity. This transformation had turned it into the most formidable part of his physique, bestowing it with a significant enhancement. As he bent his fingers, conjuring tiny orbs of lightning, he sensed that another advancement was within reach. The greatest surprise, however, was how the previously untamed thunder attribute had transformed into a serene force, akin to a gentle kitten, now seamlessly integrated into his being, allowing him effortless control. He recalled the excruciating agony he experienced when he initially unlocked the Yang attribute and pondered whether the energies diminished in strength throughout the process. As he remembered the system's message that this newfound power inflicted double damage on strange and evil creatures, he felt a keen eagerness to put it to the test. A sudden alert from a phone on a nearby table interrupted his train of thought. He reached for the object, curiosity bubbling up inside him as he pondered the unfolding events. After the last incident, he had configured special news alerts, fully aware that during these unpredictable times, the government would release warnings to ensure the safety of the public. For an innovator such as himself, the warnings served a greater purpose than mere alerts of peril. He saw each crisis as an opportunity to become more resilient, even if it involved putting his life on the line. Fang Yi pondered his next move, while his eyes drifted to the major news alert displayed on his phone. A report detailed that a massive explosion had recently occurred within a chemical plant, resulting in significant pollution throughout the city. The official narrative claimed there were no injuries and urged citizens to remain calm, yet Fang Yi harbored doubts about the true nature of such a significant incident. He browsed through online forums, discovering that eyewitness accounts painted a far more frightening picture. Residents in the vicinity recounted an inexplicable, eerie sensation that enveloped them, Someone inquired whether it felt like a chilling, malevolent presence, to which another promptly concurred. Although skepticism was prevalent among some, the general atmosphere was overwhelmingly one of anxiety and terror. The chilling and sinister atmosphere seemed oddly recognizable to Fang Yi. Without warning, a frightening memory from his previous existence resurfaced. He recalled a hand stained with blood and a dreadful creature. In his mind, he saw himself cowering in terror from a massive crimson. The monstrous creature wreaked havoc, obliterating everything in its path. The beast resembled a grotesque, many-eyed creature with rat-like features. He was all too familiar with the danger it posed. In the current moment, his expression was one of deep seriousness. Recalling the essence of these beings, he understood they were once ordinary plants or animals that, upon gaining self-awareness, transformed in bizarre ways. Their newfound consciousness unleashed chaotic powers, granting them formidable abilities to hunt and kill. These creatures thrived in the shadows, often emerging under the cover of night. Upon recognizing that this new menace posed a danger far greater than the mutated rabbit he had previously battled, Fang Yi understood the urgency of taking immediate action. With his fist clenched tightly, crackling with the vibrant energy of his newfound blue lightning, he resolved to venture out that night. His goal was clear: to prevent the creatures from gaining strength and surviving. Rising to his feet, he became enveloped in a swirling aura of blue electricity. It was the perfect moment, he concluded, to put his newly acquired 200% critical hit power to the test in an actual battle. The city streets lay deserted, as rain relentlessly poured down on a night shrouded in darkness and storm. As the signal shifted at the intersection, a swift movement darted across the slick pavement. Cloaked figures darted through the shadows with incredible swiftness. These individuals belonged to the infamous Destroyer Squad, a group on the hunt. One of them reached out to their headquarters, informing them that they were in pursuit of the anomaly identified as File Number 7. Candle Night, the mission had ultimately failed to secure the target. The creature possessed a talent for merging seamlessly with the shadows, rendering it nearly impossible to track. One of the squad members contributed additional chilling information to the file. The anomaly emitted a soft, sizzling noise when nearby and had a preference for devouring humans. As lightning illuminated the sky, the squad touched down on a rooftop to survey the city below. In the midst of the storm, the leader stood firm, his light hair tousled by the wind and a scar marking his face, a testament to past battles. He understood with unwavering resolve that the turbulent weather provided the ideal conditions for the creature to hunt. With a grave determination, he was convinced that they must prevent the creature from taking advantage of the storm. Miles away, within the bustling confines of a command center, an operator received the latest information. With diligence, he the newly acquired data pertaining to File 7. The submission for Candle Night had been completed. The gravity of the situation was undeniable. A request for extermination had been submitted with high urgency, aiming to resolve the issue within a tight of 12 hours. Headquarters had issued new instructions. The Destroyer Squad was to continue pursuing the target, but they were to prioritize their own safety above all else. Without delay, the team resumed their pursuit. In the midst of the rain-soaked city, someone sprang effortlessly from one rooftop to another. The squad leader halted his movements, his eyes fixed on a luminous holographic map of the city. It was dotted with red markers, each indicating an active anomaly. He understood that responding within 12 hours was not considered swift, yet it was the most efficient response the headquarters could manage. The nation was vast, and with anomalies cropping up all over, even their advanced resources were being strained to their limits. As the Destroyer Squad approached the last known location of their target, a message arrived from their headquarters. The operator informed them that the area they were about to enter was currently under the presence of agents from the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association. A picture illuminated the screen, while the operator detailed that her team was observing the pioneers in that location, and might be called upon to assist. The leader of the Destroyer Squad received the message and requested that headquarters send her assistance, mentioning that he had heard about her impressive accomplishments. Meanwhile, Qing was taken aback upon discovering her newfound fame. In the pouring rain, the Destroyer Squad stood with a somber determination. Upon their arrival, and her cloaked team positioned themselves on a higher rooftop. Standing with one hand on her hip, she gazed down at the group below, casually inquiring whether they were the ones requesting her presence for overtime duties. The leader of the destroyer squad felt displeased with her informal manner. With a stern expression, he explained that the Candle Night anomaly was a deadly threat, consuming people, and emphasized that this was far more critical than just an extra work shift. In response, a member of Ching's team retorted, questioning whether that was an appropriate way to seek assistance. Decided it was time to depart, remarking that the destroyer squad appeared competent enough to handle things on their own. She declared that her group, known as the Squad, would make their exit. As they began to move away, her teammates whispered to each other. One expressed concern over their leader's fierce demeanor, while another stood up for her, insisting that their assignments were equally perilous. The moment panic set in, the leader of the destroyer squad urgently pleaded with her to stop. His voice softened as he expressed regret for speaking so harshly, earnestly requesting her assistance. He conveyed the peril that Candle Night posed, emphasizing that without her renowned tracking abilities, they would be severely handicapped. He highlighted the dire consequences of their potential failure, warning that the citizens of the city would face the monster's deadly wrath. Once they reached an agreement to collaborate, the two teams gathered on a rain-soaked rooftop, prepared to begin their hunt. Focused intently, conjuring a shimmering blue sphere of energy in her palm, she declared her discovery of the creature with confidence. The energy from the orb spread outward, revealing where the monster was lurking. In the shadowy, damp remnants of a chemical plant, a monstrous creature resembling a rat with multiple eyes, known as Candle Night, was devouring something. According to its records, it had a preference for darkness, moisture, and consuming humans. Upon locating the target, initiated the commencement of the joint operation. The creature's keen senses alerted it immediately, causing it to glance upward, fully cognizant of their presence. The creature leaped aside just in time to avoid the attack that struck the spot it had just occupied. A member of the destroyer squad informed the others that the target had noticed their presence and instructed the team to assemble. With remarkable swiftness, the squad members sprang into action. The cloaks of the pursuers seemed to blur as they raced after their target. Encircling the creature completely, they effectively trapped their quarry. The group raised their voices in unison, poised to launch their assault. A member of the destroyer squad sprang into action, issuing a fierce command for the attack to commence. With a powerful strike, he sent the creature hurtling into a heap of debris. Contrary to expectations, the creature's form started to transform rather than diminish in strength. The creature's back was covered in an array of red sores, interspersed with menacing black spikes protruding ominously. The Candle Night, consumed by rage, let out an ear-piercing shriek and retaliated, conjuring a swirling vortex of dark energy. Ching urgently called out to the teams, warning them to be cautious of the approaching sound wave and urging them to evade it. Her cautionary words came just an instant too late. A formidable sonic wave burst forth from the creature, propelling the squad members backward through the air. The leader of the destroyer squad found himself hurled off the rooftop, landing with a heavy impact on the street beneath. A concerned teammate quickly hurried over to assist him. The leader, battered and bruised yet still breathing, managed to push himself upright. He acknowledged to himself that if he hadn't retreated just in time, his bones might have shattered. He was acutely aware of the peril they faced. The creature's continued presence in the city posed a significant threat, with the potential to unleash a catastrophic disaster. As the battle progressed, Candle Night underwent another transformation. Its form shifted to reveal large, bat-like wings, and a formidable roar erupted from its mouth, accompanied by a vibrant green glow emanating from its throat. A corrosive, dark liquid erupted forth, filling the surrounding air with a noxious green haze. The creature directed its energy toward the pavement, attempting to liquefy the street surface to tunnel beneath it and make its getaway. His team member cautioned her about the monster's dangerous dark power, explaining that its touch would lead to destruction. The member noted that their team lacked the strength to combat such a formidable force. Despite this, remained undeterred. Remaining composed, she instructed her team to remain vigilant and maintain the integrity of the destroyer squad's formation. She reminded them that their primary responsibility was to collect information and assist in strategizing. As the creature attempted to flee, one of the destroyer squad members armed with a dagger themselves to launch an attack. Out of the shadows emerged a sinister glare, as a pair of ominous red eyes began to shine. The knight, adorned with wings and a candle motif, thrust himself forward, skillfully evading an assault from a squad member who leapt toward him. The destroyer squad leader, filled with rage, commanded his team with a fierce urgency to ensure that the monster did not slip away from their grasp. A creature with wings soared swiftly through the bustling city streets, relentlessly pursued by the cloaked figures of the squad. Perched atop a lofty rooftop, stood with two of her team members observing the scene below. In a sudden moment, she became acutely aware of a surge in spiritual energy emanating from the creature. Recognizing the significance of this change, she made a quick decision. She instructed her team to remain outside, choosing to venture in alone to confront the unfolding situation. The pursuit brought the group to a vast, dimly lit, deserted factory. Once inside, announced her intention to examine the spiritual energy present in the area. The leader of the destroyer squad glanced at the sophisticated watch on her wrist. She acknowledged that it was a recent gadget provided by the association. The watch indicated that the squad could safely manage an energy level of 50. Candle Knight had initially observed a reading of just 48. Without warning, the device strapped to her wrist started to blink erratically, and the reading surged beyond 80. Exclaimed that the energy levels were spiraling out of control. A colossal, dark figure emerged in the rafters overhead, its eyes glowing a vivid green. The realization struck with a chilling dread as she understood that they had walked straight into an ambush. To her horror, it became clear that the factory was home to more than just a single creature. A new creature, its face shadowy and monstrous, emerged ominously behind the group. The leader of the destroyer squad was overtaken by fear, urgently declaring that a retreat was necessary without delay. In the midst of the chaos, took control of the situation, proposing a strategic withdrawal. The character advanced purposefully toward the main entrance, determined to flush out the concealed adversary. With a decisive motion, she unleashed a surge of energy, cutting through obstacles and urging her team to keep up with her. Before they had a chance to flee, she suddenly cried out in agony and fell to the ground. The invisible poison gas inundated her senses, leaving her overwhelmed. In the vast, dim expanse of the factory, Sue realized she was completely alone. She attempted to reach out to her team, her voice echoing in the emptiness, but silence was her only reply. She understood that they lurked close by, yet the poison had dulled their ability to detect her presence. As she pieced the situation together, the entire trap became clear to her. The events of Candle Night had drawn them into this factory, a place that belonged to a far more formidable being, a colossal serpent that she had only barely noticed before. As though beckoned by her mind, the massive, armored head of a mysterious serpent with bright green eyes emerged above her. She realized that, in contrast to Candle Night's straightforward dark energy, this beast's black haze was a potent toxin that they had been inhaling from the moment they arrived. The gas moved quietly through the air, rendering its targets motionless as it sapped away their spiritual energy. Any attempt to resist only hastened the depletion of their power, sealing their fate. She sensed her own spiritual energy dwindling rapidly, and she realized that without it, she was destined to become another casualty. As she fell to the ground, completely drained of energy, she was overwhelmed with hopelessness at the chilling cleverness of a creature that seemed to be merely toying with them. On the factory floor, lay in defeat, pondering whether this moment marked the end for her. As her eyes fluttered shut, she noticed a slender beam of light piercing through the murky green darkness overhead. In her eyes, a glimmer of hope began to shine. Without warning, the ceiling of the factory burst inward, flooding the room with a dazzling light. The blast subsided, revealing a figure descending from its midst, and her eyes grew wide with surprise. Fang Yu was present. A hooded figure descended with elegance amidst the debris, creating a stark silhouette against the luminous gap in the ceiling. Standing in front of the enormous serpent, he quickly recognized it as a creature with a dark attribute. The serpent lunged unexpectedly, directing its enormous fangs toward him. Simultaneously, a monstrous knight resembling a candle emerged from the darkness, launching an assault from behind. He swiftly evaded the serpent-like creature's strike. Upon encountering the snarling beast that resembled a rat, he realized the dire situation. With the two creatures drawing nearer, the complete extent of the trap he had stumbled into became clear to him. In a surprising turn of events, Fang Yi allowed the Candle Knight monster to sink its teeth into his shoulder. As crimson droplets sprayed, he observed with interest the creature's unexpectedly cunning strategy. One acted as bait, while the other was the executioner. With a defiant air, he challenged the beast clinging to him, questioning if it truly relished the act of biting humans. With determination, he summoned his newfound ability. A dazzling surge of blue lightning burst forth from his being, daring the monster to experience the force of his thunderous might. Simultaneously, he unleashed a colossal burst of golden solar energy from his unoccupied hand, striking the serpent's head directly as it lunged forward. Energized by crackling electricity and liberated from the paralyzing grip of the rat creature, Fang Yi shifted his focus entirely toward the serpent. With unwavering determination, he released a torrent of golden flames, daring the serpent to test its resilience against the searing fire. The giant serpent, filled with intense rage, surged forward, its massive jaws gaping wide as it aimed to devour its target. With remarkable agility, Fang Yi evaded the assault, soaring through the air as he brandished his radiant golden sword. Upon landing, he issued a calm and confident challenge to the massive creature, drawing its attention to his gleaming sword. The serpent recoiled slightly, wary of the radiant weapon. Seizing the opportunity, Fang Yi launched a counterattack. He soared through the air and unleashed a mighty slash at the serpent's face, his sword aglow with the crackling blue energy of his thunder power. The impact of the strike was tremendous, yet the outcome his expectations. Rather than shattering the creature's skull, its head cleaved in two, uncovering a second, identical head beneath, as though it were merely shedding an outer layer. He touched down gracefully, astonishment flickering in his eyes as he processed the unexpected turn of events. The creature's head separated entirely as it tore apart at the split. The creature cast off its outer shell, unveiling its genuine, rejuvenated form. Observing the green energy throbbing in its neck, Fang Yi realized the battle was nowhere near its conclusion. The serpent reeled in shock and agony as the residual thunder energy from Fang Yi's sword coursed through its body. The creature bellowed in anger, its dark power being overtaken by the intensifying surge of electrical energy. As the creature writhed in agony, Fang Yi allowed a subtle, self-assured smile to cross his face. Having already sensed the serpent's dark aura, which surpassed the intensity of Candle Knight's, he realized he held the upper hand. He unveiled his ingenious strategy. During his sword attack, he had deliberately restrained the complete power of his fire. Rather, he utilized the sword to transfer and direct the thunder energy from his hand straight into the snake's body. He observed the two creatures with a critical eye, coming to the conclusion that this serpent was a significantly more perilous and advanced beast compared to the Candle Knight. Without warning, a piercing pain erupted in his shoulder, precisely where the rat creature had sunk its teeth into him. Looking down, they saw unusual purple snake scales emerging from the injury. He realized at once that his suspicions were correct. This was an intelligent and evolved creature. The venom, administered through its companion's bite, had a paralyzing effect that allowed it to eliminate its prey without noise. A stabbing sensation emanated from the injury. He sensed the power of his golden sun breathing technique, actively combating the poison within him. With determination in his eyes, he recognized the ideal countermeasure. The Yang Flame power held the ability to neutralize the poison, the Golden Sun technique promised to shield and mend his body, and the Thunder power was capable of purifying any remnants. As the energy surged within him, Fang Yi became acutely aware of the advantages his combined abilities provided. The fusion of his Yang Flame and Thunder powers now enabled him to detect any poison through a sharp signal of pain, serving as an effective early warning system. He considered himself fortunate, aware that for many, the serpent's insidious venom would have been incurable. He speculated that the creature must have thrived and reached such an enormous size by depending on ambush tactics. He imagined the monster's lair, littered with the skulls of those it had claimed. Candle Night served as the ideal lure, turning the pair into a lethal snare that even ensnared the most skilled explorers, which clarified the mystery of so many vanished souls. Ultimately, however, it was of no consequence. He observed the massive skeleton of the creature disintegrate into ash within the blaze of his sacred fire. Fang Yi stood resolutely before the crackling fire, certain that the reign of terror had come to an end. Satisfaction washed over him as he reflected on the power of his inner flame. The decisive triple strike unleashed by his newfound thunder ability had secured his triumph. With a sense of assurance, he realized that his combat skills had reached a commendable level, rivaling even those of other elite pioneers. He paused in silence, observing as the flames consumed the remnants of the beast. As he prepared to depart, he suddenly stopped. Extending his hand, he appeared to have an instinctive awareness of something. His eyes narrowed as he realized he was not alone. Someone else remained in the vicinity. He turned at the precise moment to witness a silhouette emerging unsteadily from the smoky haze, hacking from the ash. Qing appeared standing quietly. Her body was smeared with soot, and she seemed exhausted, yet there was no mistaking the fact that she was alive. Once the smoke dissipated, Fang Yi observed the other squad's members lying unconscious, with seated among them. Recognizing her as the agent from the association, he advised her with a calm demeanor that pretending was unnecessary. He remarked that her attempt at pretending to be dead required improvement, which took her by surprise. Feeling flustered, shielded her face with her hands. It dawned on her that this was the very influential trailblazer she had been following, prompting her to search for a way to justify her actions. Qing insisted that the aroma had stirred her from slumber, yet Fang Yi saw through her claim with ease. He praised her resilience, noting that unlike her exhausted teammates, she had managed to conserve just enough energy for her own safety. Had she truly been unconscious, he elaborated, detecting any scent would have been impossible. Embarrassed by his accurate assessment, Qing managed to stammer a clumsy expression of gratitude. In her thoughts, she felt a sense of wonder. The young man had completely understood her intentions. She truly had reserved a small portion of her spiritual energy as a safeguard. She couldn't fathom how he managed to defeat both the Candle Knight and the enormous serpent entirely on his own. Observing her discomfort, Fang Yi adjusted his tone to be more gentle. He assured her that there was no need for her to shield her eyes. His only request was for her honesty and to keep his identity hidden. Observing that she and her team were out of danger, he remarked on the lateness of the hour and mentioned his intention to depart. Attempted to reach out to him, yet her efforts were in vain as the moment had already slipped away. He claimed that providing an explanation would ruin the surprise. Then with ease, he leaped through the opening he had created in the factory ceiling and vanished into the night. Leaping from one rooftop to the next, Fang Yi's mind was consumed with thoughts of the impending battle. He felt relieved that had not attempted to draw in the dark energy from the creatures, recalling the repulsive chill it carried. He pondered why he was unable to absorb it on his own. He speculated that perhaps the dark energy had already dissipated, or maybe his body had naturally expelled it. He resolved to ponder it further when he was back at home. In the vast emptiness of the deserted factory, found herself standing alone. Her gaze drifted upwards to the gaping hole in the ceiling, illuminated by the moonlight, through which Fang Yi had vanished moments before. A sigh escaped her lips, filled with a sense of disappointment at having missed a clear view of his face. It dawned on her that he still harbored mistrust towards her and the association. The tranquility she found was fleeting. Slipping back into her role as a squad leader, she approached the unconscious captain of the destroyer squad. With a few firm slaps, she urged him to regain consciousness. The man let out a low groan as he gradually blinked his eyes open, his body marked with bruises and his mind clouded with confusion. Panic seized him instantly, causing him to bolt upright and exclaim that an ambush had occurred. Meanwhile, observed him serenely, her expression unruffled. The leader and his squad members quickly understood the source of her calm demeanor when they laid eyes on the enormous, smoking remains of the giant serpent's skeleton. In complete shock and bewilderment, they gazed upon the scene. The leader, puzzled and eager for answers, sought an explanation about the origin of the intense yang energy. With composure, revealed that a formidable pioneer had come to their aid. She then proceeded with her meticulously prepared account. The narrator elaborated on the possibility that the pioneer could be the same person from her initial mission, a formidable figure with a Yang attribute. Her speech gradually diminished, implying that his presence might have been a fortunate twist of fate. The other members of the squad were utterly amazed. It seemed impossible to them that a single individual could overcome both creatures. Remarked that she had not succeeded in enlisting his help, and he had even managed to follow her trail, which only added to his enigmatic nature. Returning to the somber task at hand, the leader of the destroyer squad inquired about the location of Spotty. While initiating a green energy technique to clear the area, he mentioned the necessity of gathering the remains for the association. As the squads initiated the cleanup process, the leader of the destroyer squad utilized a glowing green orb of energy to collect the peculiar, dark remnants that lingered after the skirmish. As he moved ahead, his foot inadvertently pressed down on a fragment lying on the ground, causing it to erupt in a burst of vivid blue electric energy. The sudden jolt of pain forced him to leap backward, his cries echoing from the unexpected shock, while watched in astonishment. The recent revelation deepened the enigma surrounding the situation. They identified the remains as belonging to Candle Knight and noticed they were buzzing with residual electricity. The leader of the squad then faced, seeking clarification on her findings. He recalled her previous statement about the pioneer's Yang attribute, but the intense electrical energy suggested otherwise. The leaders bent down to examine the body, which still crackled with electrical energy. Was taken aback by the immense power of the thunder that lingered there, realizing it was the work of a formidable force. This realization sparked a new theory in the mind of the leader of the destroyer squad. Perhaps two elite pioneers had emerged, one to slay the serpent and another to vanquish Candle Knight before departing as a pair. Realized the situation was not as it seemed. She grappled with the challenge of conveying the astonishing reality, vividly recalling the vision of the solitary trailblazer wielding both crackling blue lightning and a fierce golden flame. She understood that it was unlikely for anyone to believe that one individual could possess two distinct top-tier abilities. Possessing just one of these powers already marked someone as a prodigy, but having two was nearly unimaginable. The undeniable evidence lay before their eyes. The charred remains of the massive serpent were clearly the result of a Yang Flame Walker's handiwork. The electrified form of Candle Knight unmistakably revealed the presence of a Thunder Tyrant. The assembled team stood frozen, their eyes wide with shock, as they grappled with the bewildering enigma of the unearthly figure before them. When the association's reinforcements finally showed up, felt relieved that she had instructed some of her team to remain outside. Had she stayed inside for too long without making contact, her absence would have been reported. She came to the grim realization that the rescue team now present had initially been dispatched to retrieve their bodies. Two of her subordinates, previously rendered unconscious by the serpent's venom, eventually regained awareness. Filled with relief at the sight of their captain unharmed, they hurriedly moved to her side, tears of gratitude streaming down their faces. The danger having been eliminated, the team from the association shifted their efforts. What had initially been a mission of rescue now transformed into one of forensic investigation. Employing sophisticated scanning technology, they meticulously examined the residual spiritual energy and the traces of the skirmish, attempting to reconstruct the events for their report to headquarters. Not long after, a specialist made his way to, and the head of the destroyer squad, eager to share his conclusions. He explained that, after an extensive analysis of all available data, including combat patterns and the methods used to slay both creatures, there was a 99% likelihood that a single individual was behind both killings. Both squad leaders exchanged glances, their expressions reflecting a mix of surprise and grave concern. In hushed tones, the squad members whispered among themselves, struggling to comprehend the astonishing truth. They had been rescued by a trailblazer wielding two distinct high-level abilities, a feat they had never imagined achievable. Each of them understood that either monster could have effortlessly ended their lives, yet this formidable figure had vanquished both creatures, apparently with just one blow each. The disparity in strength between them and this enigmatic individual was utterly staggering. Recognizing the immense significance of the discovery, reached out to her superior. She informed them that there had been a substantial update regarding the details of her target. As she gazed at the gaping hole in the ceiling, she realized that the enigmatic figure from the university and the formidable entity known as Tyrant were indeed one and the same. Back in his office, the superior at the association listened quietly to her report. After considering the details, he issued a new directive to Zai. Was instructed to temporarily halt her mission. The reasoning given was that the pioneer had rescued her team, eliminated the monsters, and made the area safe. Such deeds did not align with those of an adversary. Additionally, it was mentioned that there was a disagreement between him and Old Han, Major Han Lee, on the issue. For safety and to prevent any negative impression on their potentially strong ally, she was advised to cease all interactions with the Tyrant for now. During a phone conversation with her superior, despite having consented to halt her mission, felt compelled to share an additional insight. She mentioned to him that she had developed another theory stemming from the events that transpired when she had followed Tyrant to the secluded mountain area where he was enhancing his abilities. Her boss showed interest and requested an explanation from her. During that encounter, she had felt an exceptionally powerful aura surrounding the area where he was present. Initially, she wondered if he possessed a spiritual weapon, though she doubted it was probable. However, now that it was confirmed he wielded two high-level powers, the likelihood of such a weapon seemed far more plausible. The revelation caught the association superior off guard. The individual began to doubt whether the trailblazer truly possessed a spiritual weapon. He soon grew doubtful, reclining in his seat and expressing that it seemed very improbable. He contended that regardless of one's skill, a lone pioneer couldn't realistically acquire such a rare artifact without assistance from others. Additionally, he pointed out that the group had discovered no evidence of a third spiritual energy, which typically would be present if the weapon had been crafted independently. Swiftly pointed out his mistake, emphasizing a crucial detail. During their initial meeting, she had distinctly recognized the energy of a spiritual weapon, which was undoubtedly characterized by a yang attribute. The revelation drastically altered the situation. The superior's eyes widened in realization as he grasped the implications, if the weapon's attribute were unable to. The energy stemmed directly from the user's own yang power, signifying that he wasn't merely wielding a weapon, he was bringing it into existence. This revelation led to an astounding conclusion. If he possessed the ability to forge his own spiritual weapons, then he must be a cultivator of the spirit creation realm. While theoretically, an individual of such caliber could achieve this feat independently, possessing such power bordered on the legendary. Was astounded by the concept, fully aware of how exceedingly uncommon cultivators of such a high level were. In the whole world, there were scarcely more than 2 such individuals. The leader considered an even more frightening scenario. Should this individual possess a third and distinct attribute, it could alter the power dynamics and unsettle the entire community of pioneers. He elaborated that, based on all existing studies, various attributes tend to conflict within the human body, rendering their coexistence nearly impossible. To date, no trailblazer had been officially acknowledged to possess 3 distinct spiritual attributes. Consequently, if the trailblazer indeed wielded a spiritual weapon, the absence of a detectable third energy signature from it could potentially be beneficial. As the conversation concluded, the superior was burdened with one troubling notion. His only wish was that such an immensely powerful trailblazer would never turn against humanity. In his apartment, Fangya stood under the steaming shower, allowing the warm water to cleanse him of the dirt and exhaustion from his recent confrontation. While he toweled himself dry, his mind wandered to the world's condition. He was acutely aware that less than a year remained until the official resurgence of spiritual energy. However, formidable beasts and peculiar occurrences seemed to be escalating in frequency. Though he was aware of his status as a novice in this changing world, utilizing the power of his yang attribute, he effortlessly dried his clothes, his hand emanating a radiant golden glow. As he did so, his thoughts wandered to the numerous pioneers who, like him, had embarked on the path of self-cultivation. Recalling the fierce individuals he had encountered by the molten river, he understood that the link between one's physical form and the spiritual realm heightened people's awareness of the world's shifts. He acknowledged that this occurred even in the absence of the nation's formal consent. Numerous self-taught trailblazers had already achieved the level known as the one-star Ghost Axe realm. The government's response to this development was. In his room, he pondered the situation, realizing that representatives such as I were beginning to connect with adventurers like himself, indicating a period of calm and mutual discovery between both parties. As his thoughts drifted to Major Han Li, and he determined that, at this moment, the creatures remained contained, and no significant disputes had erupted among the various pioneering teams. As he completed dressing, he realized the item was delicate. The government had established the Spiritual Energy Cultivation Association, yet it remained a secret from the public. Fang Ye comprehended their approach completely. As discussions about local issues and peculiar incidents increased, the government carefully balanced its role, aiming to safeguard humanity while discreetly alerting the population without inciting widespread fear. Although Fang Ye had achieved recent successes, his assessment of the global situation remained pessimistic. The individual recognized that the core issue stemmed from the government's hesitance to officially initiate a widespread cultivation era. Being aware of the massive population, he grasped that unveiling the complete truth could potentially lead society into turmoil and destruction. Amidst the present turmoil, even the most esteemed pioneers were powerless to halt the unavoidable disorder. The combination of internal struggles and looming dangers from monstrous creatures threatened to exacerbate the situation further. He recognized that the government's cautious and considerate strategy wasn't misguided, understanding that the terror and panic within the human heart could wreak greater havoc than any beast. Despite his initial concerns, his true anxiety stemmed from the rapid pace at which the monsters were evolving, far surpassing what he had anticipated. He examined the details about the creatures he had recently battled. These beings were a common result of dark attribute contamination, particularly linked to the shadow attribute, which was a subset of dark energy. His system recognized this energy as a natural adversary to pioneers, and at that moment, it was something he was unable to absorb. He came to the understanding that these creatures possessed intelligence far beyond that of ordinary animals. They coordinated their efforts to ensnare and hunt pioneers, whom they regarded as a valuable source of sustenance. He understood that these beings were considerably less powerful than the real dark-type monsters he recalled from his past life. Those terrifying creatures that had the capability to obliterate entire nations single-handedly. The narrow escape served as a stark warning about the increasing peril. He was convinced that without his presence, Qing and her team would have faced complete annihilation. A flicker of optimism ignited within him as he pondered the system's phrasing, noting that the dark attribute's resistance to absorption was only a temporary condition. Once specific criteria were fulfilled, he believed he could potentially harness its power, which might be crucial for future victories. He assessed his present skills, realizing he had mastered the Golden Sun breathing technique related to the Yang attribute, the Divine Thunder tempering linked to the Thunder attribute, and the Crimson Flame blade technique. In the midst of wielding exquisitely matched high-level techniques and the formidable strength of a 3-star Ghost Axe Realm pioneer, he was aware that only a handful could rival him. However, even as he was enveloped by his own immense power, he remained acutely aware that it still fell short. His train of thought came to an abrupt halt as the sound of his phone ringing pierced the silence, causing him to feel a sudden surge of annoyance. He picked up the phone, surprised to find a call from his aunt. On the other end of the phone, his aunt inquired about his well-being before getting to the heart of her call. She expressed that his cousin would be arriving in the city to study, and concerned for her safety, requested if she could stay at his home for a few days rather than booking a hotel. The memory of his cousin was extremely unclear to Yi, leaving him utterly surprised. The only memory he had was of a silent, diligent student who was completely absorbed in her academics. Her appearance was now a blur in his mind. Even with his reservations, he consented and informed his aunt about the availability of a spare room. Upon inquiring about her arrival time, his aunt mentioned that she would provide the cousin with his address, allowing her to find her way there on her own. In another location, a dimly lit room was illuminated solely by the glow of a computer screen, where an individual with elongated, nearly talon-like fingers swiftly tapped away on a keyboard. Clad in an oversized hoodie that left her ears exposed, the young woman concluded a conversation with her mother. Her mother, who happened to be Fang Ye's aunt, instructed her to reach her cousin's home by the following afternoon and mentioned bringing some special treats. The young woman courteously wrapped up the call, assuring her mother that it was no bother and mentioning she had other tasks to attend to. Had just posted a message in the chat window of a group known as the Spiritual Energy Revival, martial arts vanguard team, informing them of her recent arrival in the city and her intention to stay with her cousin. Upon concluding the phone conversation, she maneuvered her mouse to open a fresh window on her screen. The alert spoke of a notorious town that had gained infamy on the internet, now referred to as Death Town. Recently, it was reported that 3 more individuals had disappeared after attempting a challenge involving a mysterious pork beast. Accompanying the article was a horrifying image of the town, painted in blood and chaos. As the light from the screen danced on her glasses, realized she was looking at town, her curiosity was unmistakable. Focus on browsing was suddenly broken as her mother stepped into the room. Her mother inquired whether she had completed her packing, replied that she was indeed ready, but expressed a preference for staying at a hotel to avoid inconveniencing her cousin. Her mother firmly stated her belief that it was far safer to stay with the cousin rather than being alone, expressing her complete trust in the relative. With a gentle nudge, the mother guided her daughter towards the door, offering some last words of wisdom. She reminded her to stay out of trouble and lend a hand at home whenever possible, promised her mother that she grasped the message clearly. With the door now closed, exhaled softly, readying herself for the upcoming visit. To her, it was merely another obstacle to tackle. With a determined glint in her eyes, she adjusted her glasses and assured herself that, regardless of her cousin's demeanor, he couldn't possibly present more of a challenge than a monster would. The following day, the sky stretched above, a vivid shade of blue. A young woman with long, dark hair and glasses was making her way toward an apartment building, pulling a suitcase behind her. She glanced at her phone to verify that the map had indeed guided her to the right place. As she gazed up at the towering structure, she quietly acknowledged to herself that this had to be the right location. She was prepared to finally reunite with the cousin who lingered only faintly in her memories.